I think the perfect person to bring in and talk about this is our good friend Nolan Bianchi, covers the Detroit Lions, the Detroit News. He's joining the show. Camera looks good, Nolan. All right, you're back. All right, so let's bring him in. He does some great work. First time joining the show, Nolan Bianchi. Nolan, how are we doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. I know you guys couldn't see me, but when you were saying I think the defense dominated the offense, I was going like this. Oh yeah, big time. It was big time domination from the defense today. I had them. I was looking at my observations before I came on, so I could try to remember everything. They went 3-and-out on their first drive, settled for a 54-yard field goal attempt on their second drive, 3-and-out on their third drive, picked up a first down on their fourth drive, but still punted after 4 plays, and then finally scored a touchdown on their fifth. So yeah, it was an ugly day for the offense there.
Yeah, no, it was cool. I mean, the scrimmage, it was awesome because I was talking to Boone about this too. You got to see kind of the chess match with like John Morton and Kelvin, and I would like to get your thoughts on that too. Kind of the offense. I know it's early, it's training camp, it's a scrimmage. You've been covering the Lions, so you kind of are used to this stuff where it's like you're not going to hit the panic button and be like, well, should we be concerned about the offense already? But when you look at John Morton and kind of the identity there, they want to do a lot of things similar. But one thing you have been noticing, Nolan, is they're taking shots downfield, dude. And John brought it up that, they want to see who can do what, who can handle these type of plays. They got guys that can obviously do it. But what have you kind of made to some of the slight little adjustments or John Morton kind of putting his own flavor on this thing? And just, I guess, getting to know John Morton as an OC. What's your kind of thoughts on him so far?
Yeah, it's been subtle. Like you mentioned, that's something we've been hearing basically since he got hired is, there's not a whole lot that's going to change, but we've seen some stuff. We saw it today. We saw a 2 backfield look where they faked a screen to Gibbs. They ended up throwing it to Montgomery, and he's able to go pick up a first down. They're doing a lot of play action rollout stuff, which I like. Somebody tweeted at me that that's probably not a good thing. I don't know that I agree with that because I think I mean, it's something that Bo Nix and the Broncos did a lot last year. So I think it's just a concept that he likes, but also there might be something to the idea that it's kind of tough to get an evaluation of this offense because Aiden Hutchinson has just been kind of all over Dan Skipper, and it's kind of been messing some stuff up. I know I brought this up, throughout the preseason of how in years past it's been tough to get an evaluation of the receivers because the quarterback play has been so poor. I do wonder to some degree, as this offensive line figures it out, and while Taylor Decker gets back healthy, I do wonder, how much of what we're seeing when it comes to the defense seemingly stacking days on the offense is going to continue coming to fruition once those guys get a little more comfortable on the interior. I mean, Tate Rallage has been shifting from center to guard. Over the first 7 days, he's played three days at center, 5 days at guard now. So, those little things will continue to work itself out, and I think getting Taylor Decker back will be huge. But yeah, no, that's something we've been hearing a lot is the deep shots, and I actually think Goff has been a little uncharacteristically inaccurate on those throws. I saw it once today, at least. Sam Laporta had a step on Terran Arnold, and he just kind of sailed it a little bit. Same thing happened yesterday where Gibbs was working against Alex Anzalone, had him one-on-one, had him beat. Probably could have gone for a touchdown if he put it on him, but he just put it out of reach a little bit. So those are some things that he's kind of working out. But I would say from an operational standpoint, outside of the inability to block one of the best defensive players in the league, I think they're pretty much showing what you would want to see from them at this point.
I've interrupted the video to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Comer & Cross, and their one-day installation for concrete floor coatings, garages, basements, patios. They do it all. And I'm sure you're tired of staring at your crack-stained garage floor. Well, I have the answer for you. Comer & Cross in their summer installation sale, they're offering 12 months same as cash or $500 in savings. Why put it off? You can contact the number 248-834-3488. They transform patios, pool decks, basements, even driveways. They do it all. And the best part is they move the stuff out for you. They repair your cracks and pits before applying your stunning new floor, guaranteed. Comer & Cross concrete floors never chip, crack, or peel like epoxy or paint. Again, you could call the number 248-834-3488, or you can book your free estimate at comercross.com. Let's get back to the video.
Yeah, no, I just want to follow up on kind of one of the points you made there with the offensive line. I had put out yesterday that I just felt like Tate should just be the center because I always felt like he's going to be the center of the future. And my kind of thought process with it was don't take the reps away from him. Like let him get every rep that he can because at some point that's going to be him. But then obviously today and throughout this camp with the Pats, it's been Graham and Tate at right guard. And today it looked like at right guard, Tate like at times dominated. And I saw him one time throw Tyreek Williams, and it looks like he's comfortable at right guard. Do you kind of get that same feeling that, hey, this is how they're going to roll for the season, at least to start, and they're just going to let this thing play out and let the kind of veteran Graham Glasgow be the center of that offensive line?
I do think it's trending that way. And yeah, that play you're talking about on Tyreek, I asked Tyreek after if he's had his welcome to the NFL moment yet, and he said that was actually the play where he just got completely washed out of the run play for a 14-yard gain. I also kind of thought that when they started training camp with Tate Rowledge at center, that that was kind of their preferred outcome. That was something that they would want to happen. And then over the last couple of days, obviously we've seen Graham there, and I think based on everything we've heard from Morton and from Campbell, it kind of seems like things are really trending in that direction. Even Graham himself. Campbell saying today, I asked him, is there any more clarity on the center competition than when camp started? And he said, well, Graham's been in there for a couple days. Graham's looked pretty dang good. And the more that it looks pretty dang good, the clearer the picture gets. Yesterday, John Morton was saying, it just feels more natural for Graham Glasgow to play center right now. Obviously, he has a lot of experience playing there. And then talking to Graham himself, he was kind of saying that he likes playing center. He likes the challenge of it. He likes the mental aspect of it. And it kind of seems like if they were going to keep Tate at center, they were actually going to keep relying on Graham to maybe make some of those calls and checks at the line. And he said, if that's the case, I'd rather just play center. I don't want to be a guard functioning as a center from that position. So all three of those things kind of working together lead me to believe that that's the way things are heading. It's obviously still early, but Morton was talking about how important quarterback trust is with the center. And that kind of lends itself to Graham as well, because Graham has obviously stepped in a couple times over the last couple of years. So, yeah, I would say full on that's the direction things are trending.
Yeah, I think another big storyline too, man. Isaac Tesla, he's he got some run obviously on those run blocking plays. He's an absolute demon in the run game, but also he's making plays, dude, and he's making plays on these second team guys, and he's just showing like, I know people were pissed off that I got drafted, but you're all idiots. I'm actually good at football, even though I played at Arkansas. So he's showing skill. He's showing a skill set in camp already. And I know Tim Patrick recently came out and was like, hey, I just have to be better. I feel healthy. And he actually had a touchdown today. But what do you make of kind of that wide receiver 3 role? You obviously have weapons galore. But with Tim Patrick being the veteran he is, he's on a 1-year deal. Could you kind of foresee something, later down, maybe down the line? I know the Lions like to kind of groom guys and slowly bring them along where, Isaac Tesla, obviously injuries could occur as well, where he starts to kind of make some noise his rookie season, because I think he's a player that like physically checks a lot of boxes. I mean, you probably can do a little more because he runs a 4.4, he's 6'4", he can run block and do all these things. He has great hands. But what have you kind of what's been your impression of the third round rookie and kind of what could happen this season? Or you think it's more of a, hey, wait a year and then he'll get more implemented in the offense?
Yeah, that's a great question. He looks really good so far. And, you brought up the comments from Tim Patrick. He's had a tough couple of days, to be quite honest with you. And he admitted that. We talked to him yesterday after practice. I could see really anything happening with this group. I mean, the way Tesla is playing right now has been really impressive. It's funny, like he keeps making these like highlight reel catches, and then they go on Twitter and everybody's like, he's still not gaining separation. And it's like, well, he's still coming down with the catch. Like, I don't know. And there definitely have been times where he has gained separation. He had a really nice catch over the middle today. I think it was like a third down for like 15, 20 yards. So he's looked really good. But another guy, honestly, like I hate to get away from your original question here, that's really been impressing me is Dominic Lovett. And I think he's a guy who might have a chance to contribute immediately because of the fact that he's been really good as a receiver. He's incredibly fast. He's proven to be a reliable target, and then also he's really shown up in special teams, whether it be as a gunner. Today they had him doing a lot of punt return stuff. I don't think that'll be his full-time job quite yet. That job is Khalif Raymond's. He's very, very good at it, but I just think the upside with Lovett, because of the special teams and the wide receiver ability, he could get himself taken to a lot of these games this year, and that's hard to do. And a lot of these things have to work out over the next couple of weeks, and even when the season starts, like not all of it's going to be final. You brought up that they like to sometimes work guys in slowly. That wouldn't surprise me at all if Tim Patrick started the year as kind of the clear cut wide receiver 3, the starting X receiver, if you will, and then slowly over the course of the season, Tesla kind of works his way in there and begins having more of an impact. I could also see him absolutely crushing it in the preseason and just being like, well, there's your wide receiver 3 right there. So really the sky's the limit with this wide receiver room. And I just think back to what it was a year ago this time, and going into the second preseason game, I remember I wrote a big feature on like Darius Fountain maybe being the wide receiver 3 because that was what it looked to be at the time. They just didn't have anybody who was standing out. And this year, they almost had the opposite problem where, like, man, you're going to have to keep 6 receivers on this roster because Lovett looks so good. And obviously, you can't really do any maneuvering with Tesla or Patrick. So they're in a tremendous spot and where they can kind of sit back and wait for somebody to emerge. But it's different than the situation where they were waiting for somebody to emerge last year, and that whoever does come out of this thing as the wide receiver 3, I think you're going to feel pretty comfortable with in terms of your overall unit that you have going on every Sunday.
Hey, Nolan, were you down on the field? Did you hear Dan Campbell like just ripping someone? Was that Easy looked at me and said, I think he was yelling at Dominic Lovett. Was that Dominic Lovett he was just going in on?
I didn't notice that, but rookies, they got a lot to learn. They got a lot of operational stuff to work through, whether it just be lining up properly. They're getting a lot thrown at him right now, and especially a guy like Lovett who is playing special teams. He's going to be, I think, an important gunner for them, opposite of Khalil Dorsey. So I didn't hear that, but rookies sometimes they need a little little help.
It was good. It was good seeing Dan just getting after it, though. As we were up in the stands, usually they're on the other side. They were over here. We were like, this is what we came to see. I want to ask you I think the best player today, and really probably on this team right now, Aiden Hutchinson. And I know for weeks, as you kind of were in Allen Park the last few weeks watching, and fans weren't allowed in yet, everyone kept talking about, hey, how Hutch is kind of taking another step, and coaches and players are like, this guy is taking another step. And it's like everyone was questioning his injury. I think he had 3 or 4 sacks today. I think it was like 3. And then there was the one where they blew it dead and he was like screaming at him like that was a sack. Can you talk about maybe this whole Hutch situation for fans that are like still maybe questioning, like, hey, maybe this is just hype. People aren't really taking it. No, like we were there today. We saw it, Nolan. That was incredible today. And it seems like you being there the last few weeks, that's what he's been doing for weeks now.
Yeah, he looks absolutely phenomenal. There is no indication in any way whatsoever that this is a guy who was having a severe leg surgery in Dallas just a little under a year ago. You mentioned the stuff today. He's been like when he lines up with Penei Sewell, I'm expecting Aiden Hutchinson to win that matchup. And I don't think that's an indictment on Sewell either. It's just whatever you put in front of Aiden Hutchinson right now, he's going to wreck your day. And I think that's just super encouraging coming off of the concern that people had when you have that type of leg injury and you have an ankle and bending is so important to what he does. And Dan Campbell said the other day on NFL Network, I think he's bending better than he was before he got hurt. I don't know how that's possible. Like, I don't think it's like a Tommy John situation where like he actually saw some sort of improvement because of the injury.
Guy got a bionic leg.
Yeah, maybe. But I mean, the guy works harder than anybody else in that locker, as hard as anybody in that locker room, as hard as anybody you're going to find in this league. And so it is absolutely no surprise at all that he's kind of come out and reasserted himself as a truly, truly dominant player in this league.
Nolan, last question for me. Listen, I whether it's right or wrong, I've been this Hendon Hooker experience. I've been really defending the guy, I get some flack for it. All right. And I've said some stupid things in the past. I think I've come around now and I've lowered my expectations to now he is the backup quarterback, but even that's not guaranteed, Nolan. All right. And I know he's battling with Kyle Allen, all due respect, savvy veteran. He's been around the block. All right. He's done some special things as a backup. He's solid. What have you kind of made of this battle here with Kyle Allen and Hendon Hooker. And I guess my take on it, and I don't know if this is a bad take or not. I think if they were not confident to some extent with Hendon Hooker, they would have brought in a better backup. That's what I say. But what say you on that situation? And I guess your confidence just observing this Hendon Hooker, I guess, storyline and now Kyle Allen and him competing. Because I think the experience with Kyle Allen could give him the nod, but I still got faith in Hendon here.
Yeah, and I think ultimately, Hendon, they're developing Hendon, right? So I think in the end of the day, if you had to pick, you're going to go with Hendon Hooker, the younger guy. And he's looked absolutely phenomenal. I think people are honestly too hard on him, or at least they were too hard on him leading up to this camp because, I mean, I think people think of him as like a third-year player, but he didn't play at all during his rookie season. And he came back from the injury like kind of later in the year. But when you're at that stage of the season, you're only practicing so much. And they just don't have reps to give to the third-string quarterback, which he was at the time when Teddy Bridgewater was in there. And, he comes out, he goes to OTAs, his first ever OTAs, and he's got like a broken finger or a dislocated finger on his throwing hand. So like, okay, well, that's all a wash now. He goes to training camp. He definitely struggled with a lot of things. I mean, he drove Ben Johnson crazy with his indecisiveness, his inability to let go of the ball, but I think that's normal in an offense that's so timing-based, especially compared to the one that he was coming from in Tennessee, which is just not an NFL offense. And so I think that there was some patience expected. But if he was a rookie last season, like a true rookie, a 2024 draft pick, and he has the camp that he does, and he comes here this year, and he's having the camp that he's having so far, I think everybody goes, he's right on track. But for some reason, people just kind of ignore the fact that he had the injury that literally he could not practice his entire rookie season. And so to me, I just wiped that out. To me, he's a second-year player, and all things considered, he is absolutely right on track of where he's supposed to be. He looks so much better this year than he did last year, just with his decisiveness. And he's not just getting the ball out; he's getting it there on time. He's putting it on their chest. I remember last year he kept having trouble with these quick little out routes, where every time he'd throw a quick out route to the sideline, it was getting picked off and taken the other way for a pick six. He might have gotten picked off so far this camp, but I can't recall it. My brain's kind of mush at this point. The days are all blending together, but I don't remember him getting intercepted. And he looks really good. And I think context is important. I think people looked at that situation last year when they brought Teddy Bridgewater back at the end of the year, and they said, "Oh my gosh, this is such a bad sign for Hendon Hooker. This is them admitting that Hendon Hooker was a terrible pick and that he stinks and all these other things." And that's just simply untrue. I think they realized what a special season they were having. They realized how attrition was messing it up, and they said, "You know what? We'd really prefer it if we didn't have our season ended because we had to put in a quarterback who's never played a meaningful snap in his life." And so they went out, they got Bridgewater, they brought him in. He immediately became the backup quarterback in front of Hendon Hooker. And I think people made a lot of assumptions based off that and maybe contextualized by his past training camp process and use that to say, okay, he's not going to be anything. And that's just simply untrue based on what we've seen so far. He looks really good. As far as the competition itself, I mean, it's going to be a tough one. I prefer my backup quarterback to have a little bit different style of play than the starter. So if you got to throw him in a pinch, it can actually throw the defense off for that one game where you're going to play him. So I don't know. I think he's exactly where he needs to be. I would even say he looked better than I could have even imagined. Like I really can't even think of something that you would want to see more from him than what we've seen from him so far this camp. He looks sharp.
Nolan, I have to say, hand up. I was one of those guys after last year. I'll admit it.
Hey, listen, I am a sports fan. I have so many awful opinions about the teams that I root for. And I'm not saying that's an awful opinion. I don't mean to brag either. But like it was funny. Like I was watching the Pistons Knicks series, and it had like been a while. So I was a GA reporter for a long time, so I covered a lot of teams, and I haven't really been a fan of a team in a long time outside of Liverpool Football Club. So when I came back into the fandom, I kind of thought to myself, watching this game, 5 minutes into the game one of the Eastern Conference playoffs, well, the refs and the announcers clearly want the Knicks to win. And it's just like, just fan brain. And it happens, and I get it. So I don't fault you. I am the same person as the people in my replies screaming things that I don't believe.
Yeah, that's the same face, Boone.
Trying to figure out a way to separate the fandom and reality. So I do want to ask we had the Hall of Fame game here on Thursday. What are a couple things, because we actually talked to someone, actually I was on the John McRoon's podcast the other day, and he actually asked me this, and it's interesting to think, like, when you are watching the game, Nolan, on Thursday, what are like your kind of, let's say, like top 2 or 3 things that the whole game you're going to kind of be looking in on, whether it's matchups or just kind of guys competing out there in position groups? What are you going to be looking for?
Well, those rookie receivers, for sure, like I mentioned. I mean, Tesla, I think, is probably the guy who everybody's most excited to see on Thursday, and for good reason based on what he's shown so far. I'm not really concerned with the backup quarterback play that we're going to see from Hooker and Allen. So I'm just excited to see how this offense functions and who stands out. I just think back to that Giants preseason opener last year. It's raining. Nate Sudfeld's playing quarterback for all but 2 possessions in the game, and you're like, man, this is worthless. Like they can't do anything with him having the ball in his hands. And that brutal. Was like kind of frustrating as like an evaluation tool. And I imagine the team felt the same, but I'm looking forward to just seeing who pops. Like, in a weird way, I'm kind of watching a little bit of everything. I know it's like kind of a cop-out answer, but I would say every position on the field has room for maybe one guy to stand out, or one bubble player to make it. And it's all just about who is going to be those guys who make it so apparent that they have to be on the team that the Lions have no choice but to keep them around. There's a spot on the defensive interior. I'm really intrigued to see whether or not Pat O'Connor plays tomorrow, because he kind of reminds me of a Kyle Pecco from a year ago, where maybe a little bit of a journeyman in his career. He hasn't been to that many different stops, but he's only played my co-host on the Gridiron Gang podcast, Richard Silva, just told me the highest number of snaps that he played in a season prior to last year over his 7-8 year NFL career was 103. And that's just absurd. So you kind of go into the season being like, oh, how well can he play? If he doesn't play tomorrow, he's probably on the team. And I think it could be like a Kyle Pecco situation where we're all just like, oh, I guess that guy's on the team now because he's not playing in the first preseason game. So that's one thing I'm looking for. I'm looking at, obviously, the rookies. Ahmed Hassani, he's been pretty good. I don't know necessarily what I expected from him coming into this camp, but I don't think he looks lost out there, which I think is a good thing. And he has made a few plays, gotten in a few sacks. He's obviously been studying Aiden Hutchinson's tape. He's hit a few spin moves. And then the safety competition. There's 4 guys fighting for 1 or 2 spots. Avonte Maddox looks like he's going to play safety. So if you're only going to keep 4 safeties because of this cornerback depth that you have, who's going to be that guy to step up? So far, it's been Maurice Norris. Just based on Brad Holmes' draft history and the way they tend to keep their draft picks around, I was kind of assuming that Dan Jackson had an inside track at that position, but he hasn't really shown much. And so I'm looking at the safety competition with Lawrence Strickland, Maurice Norris, Ian Kennelly, the UDFA from Grand Valley. And then elsewhere, Ennis Rakestraw. I'm giving you like 50 things to watch for tomorrow, so I apologize. But Ennis Rakestraw is another one. There's a couple spots open on the defensive interior. Keith Cooper is a UDFA who stood out. He had a half sack today, split it with O'Connor, also jumped offside. So a little bit of good, a little bit of bad. That's somebody I'm watching on the defensive line. And really the totality of the offensive line as far as the reserves, because I think that's pretty wide open too.
Yeah, I agree. The tackle, that tackle, backup tackle, like Dan Skipper today, man. All love to Skip.
For sure.
Yeah, it's tough.
But I think everybody knows what it is. That's just like he's a really good jumbo tight end, situational. Like he's a good culture guy, but you don't want him to be your starting left tackle. And I think that's okay to say that. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, does it feel like the Giovanni Manu thing, like that he's kind of developing a little slower, or did you expect him to be a little bit more ahead of where he's at right now? Because I felt like he should be that kind of tackle number 2 there. It feels like.
Yes and no. Like we heard a lot about his progress kind of over the offseason and during OTAs and going into training camp, and there's still a lot of time for him to figure things out. But I would say for the most part, he has shown a minor step forward than what it was last year. And I guess I only feel confident saying that because the bar was pretty low based on what he showed during last year's training camp. But again, I mean, this is a guy who you knew was going to kind of take this long. And does that mean that you're okay with not seeing progress? I don't think so. You know, you shouldn't be satisfied just being like, well, he's going to figure it out eventually. Like some guys don't, you know, but at the same time, this could be a situation where he does need 2 years to really start to understand how to play tackle in this league. And, you know, I don't disagree with you that was maybe a little bit of the expectation coming into this year is that he could be OT3, OT4. So far, I just don't see it with him.
Yeah. That's another, I don't know why.
But don't panic yet, you know.
I have this thing, Nolan, where I attach myself to players where their stock drops after I attach myself to them. Giovanni Manu.
Nice.
I need to just take a step back, I think. Yeah, keep up the great work, Nolan. I appreciate you staying over the time. Obviously, you do great work. You guys can follow Nolan at Nolan Bianchi on X. Check out his work, Detroit News, man. We'll talk to you soon, my friend. Keep crushing.
Beautiful. Thanks for having me. Anytime, guys.
There you go.
Appreciate it, Nolan.
Nolan Bianchi joining the fellas. Hey, what's going on there? It's Jeff Iafrate. Appreciate you for finishing the video. You can check out one of the videos here suggested or show support by commenting, liking, and subscribing. And buy your merchandise, FisherCTSports.com.